Divine peace and blessings. What they don't tell you about readings and divination. Part 2. This is in response to Mickey Rourke. And forgive me if I'm not pronouncing your last name correctly. But the answer is absolutely. Absolutely, there's a danger in doing readings and divination as it relates to tarot cards. And I'm going to attempt to explain to you right now why. First, let's just start with the basics. As I may have mentioned in the first video, what they don't tell you about readings and divination. Every form of reading, every form of divination, every system has a protocol, has rules, and at the most basic level, you're operating in the realm of elements. So when we talk about tarot cards, we're talking about paper and ink. Paper, ink, imagery, whatever, pictures are printed on the card, and the symbolic, energetic meaning and attachment to that. First, it's paper. Compared to stone, runes, for instance, palm nuts, crystal, many of the other forms of divination that we know of. Paper is probably the least capable of holding an energy, save for the words, the text, or the imagery that's printed upon it. Tarot cards are readily available, probably the most readily available form of divination. So I would dare say that, oh, and to add to that, anyone can print tarot cards today. So there is not a concise, specific set pattern or system that is recognizable, readily identifiable. People tend to get their own interpretation, if you will, of what they see or perceive on the tarot card. I've taught, instructed, shared with many psychics, readers who have no connection whatsoever to many of the imagery that's on these cards. Particularly when you start talking about people of color trying to interpret old world European imagery and symbolism, Masonic symbolism, many of the other Theban and many of the other systems that we know are deeply meshed and ingrained in what's going on traditional tarot cards. When you start bringing angelic cards and crystal cards and now the new modernized cards, you start bringing in many other systems, many other things that you need to study, know, learn, and be able to identify to navigate those cards. So that's the first issue, if you will, that I have with tarot. Personally, one of the worst experiences that I ever had in religion and spirituality and ritual and magic and divination was over tarot cards. This was approximately 1990, 91. No, it was closer to the Rodney King riot, so maybe 92. I borrowed some tarot cards from someone that I was friends with, closely intimate with. And these cards, he had no knowledge of, no understanding of, claimed he never really even used these cards, and that they belonged to two of his aunts, and that somehow the cards were in his possession. And I asked him to allow me to borrow the cards, examine the cards, which he did. I can't remember what the deck was, what the brand was. I can't remember any of the intimate details, even the imagery of these cards right now. But they had a distinct spirit attached to them. violent, negative, raging spirit. And let me say, one that I had never seen exhibited by the person who had possession of these cards and allowed me to borrow them. And I had the cards maybe 2 or 3 days, and we shared a communal building in Pasadena. That building is probably still there, right across the street from the Capitol there in the city of Pasadena. It used to be a Y, and they turned it into SRO housing, as they refer to it in California. So we all had our private units of varying sizes and shapes, but then we shared a communal kitchen on each floor of this building, along with a communal restroom. So I was in the communal kitchen, excuse me, and he got off the elevator. The elevator opened right into this communal kitchen, and I was washing dishes at the time. And he asked me about the cards, and I told him, you know, I would get the cards from him. Just give me a moment. Now, preceding this, I want to say maybe one day before, he had approached me and a group of other friends, spiritual friends, some Rastas, some of the people from Nigeria who originally initiated me into Ifa, and a few others, all shared, rented, lived in this building. And we had a meeting going on, and he, at that time, asked about the cards, and I told him to just give me a moment after the meeting, and we'd reconnect, and he was gone. So the next time I saw him was the very next morning in this kitchen area. And it may even have been a later morning, late afternoon. It feels like a Sunday to me. I can't remember quite the date. And this spirit that was attached to these cards was on this man. And when he got off the elevator, he was quiet. He didn't say anything, nothing that gave me any indication that I needed to stop washing dishes and be concerned about my well-being. And before I knew it, he had struck me with a folding chair. Now, what made this spirit, as it was attached to this deck of tarot cards, so unique was that not only had this spirit affected him, but now it was on me. After he hit me with the folding chair, I don't remember much else about this event, save what my friends and people in the building and the police had to tell me an hour or so later, after things sort of calmed down. But they say that I was washing candle glasses. You know, after you burn the 2-week candle, the 7-day candle, you know, you have this glass. I know many of you are discarding them, wasting them. Some of you are recycling them, and I suggest recycling. And there are many purposes for them, which I'll do another video at another time about how to reuse that glass and not waste it. So I was cleaning them, and if you've ever tried to clean them, you know it's very difficult. You have to have a very special formula, which I'll share in that next video, about how to get, you know, that wax out of there and get them sparkling clean. And the witnesses say that I had one of the glasses in my hand as he hit me with that metal folding chair. I remember going for him with the glass, but I thought I had thrown the glass, and the witnesses say, no, you didn't throw the glass. You sort of reached at him with the glass, and the glass broke, and it didn't shatter. The glass broke cleanly in half. It might have had a little dip in it, but it broke cleanly in half, completely around the diameter of the glass. So basically, I had a circular, sharp end now on this glass, and they say I didn't let go of it, and I kept going. So much so, I cut him in several places. I cut two of the people trying to break up the melee in several places. I cut one of the police officers who ultimately arrived on the scene. And it was clear that something deeper was going on. The level of intensity surrounding this deck of tarot cards was unbelievable to any of us involved. It scared me to a great degree that I all but shut down using tarot cards for a while until I found a Egyptian tarot deck some years later that I felt some affinity to. But I knew that I had to be very careful in using tarot cards in the future. Um, it's just too much information to keep up with, how they're processed, how that paper's made, um, what the symbols are, what the symbols mean, what they represent, and then you've got people creating their own new, unique, personalized designer tarot card decks with all of their energy. Another sign, I believe, to represent sort of the dysfunction around the overuse, the generalized use of tarot cards. Um, and you can do your own survey of readers, practitioners. Check out King, check out Kasamba. Uh, you find a diversity of people hiding their identity, using fake identities, model identities that don't belong to the reader, which is why, incidentally, on King, on Kasamba, on many of the sites, I continually update new pictures, new video, new activity, because I want people to see me, and know that I'm the real deal every day, all day. I'm not a 25-year-old image that someone is sort of using on their public reader profiles. And many of these people are hiding because they're not legitimately operating in reading, in spirituality, and religion. They're not paying taxes on the services that they're charging people for. They're not handling their business, if you will, in a professional way, in the way that any expert consultant would. So you find a lot of play, as opposed to other mediums, Shell, Palmnut, Babalaos, Ianifas, Obeya, Bokur, who are, in many cases, have to be streamlined into a process, into an initiation, into a hierarchy, into a community, so there may not be as much play on identity, even though we know that happens. But it's not as frequent once you are found out as being someone other than who you say you are, who that title says you are, and it gets, on the internet. It usually does not get well for those readers. So the practitioners who are communally associated with communities, religions, traditions, tend to be more um, settled in their own energy. And I'm speaking right now just to the energy of the practitioner as it relates to tarot cards. I met too many quote unquote psychics, readers, tarot card readers, who are confused, who are in chaos, whose personal lives are in shambles. Many of you have heard me talk about this on previous videos. There was a time that it was even a taboo for me to even read for someone who claimed to be a reader. Once I found out you were on King, you were on Live Person, you were on Kasamba, you were on California Psychics, in particular you had high numbers, and now you're coming to me completely outside your system, completely outside your realm of spiritual process for assistance. I have to question that. Just as much as I would question a financial consultant who had no control over their finances. just as much as I would a dentist um, who couldn't take care of their own teeth, um, just as much as I would a barber whose head looked a hot mess. So again, with the availability of the tarot card, and it sort of made its way into mainstream pop culture as it relates to spirituality and religion. It's a party favor. It's a novelty. Some tarot card manufacturers, producers even print that on the box, that this is in no way associated with anything really spiritual. And then the ones that do or don't say anything, again, look at those systems. What are the images? Who are the images? What are they representing? Who are they representing? What are all those symbols? Particularly with the newer cards. And even with the older cards, you might, if you know what you're looking at, you're going to find new symbols integrated, hidden in there, added to, that once were not a part of that archetype. That cards are governed by an archetype. An archetype has specific proverbs, specific prologues, specific rules, a specific way of feeding, specific ways of addressing, specific ways of attending to that force, that deity, in nature as well as in ritual. So the clearer, more consistent, more concise tool that you are trained to utilize, the better result you're going to get. And there's also the prohibition against overreading, which I think happens most with tarot cards. I don't think people overread runes as much. Runes unto itself is a much more complex system, and you need to know those individual symbols that don't change, that aren't played with the way tarot cards are played with. The rune systems have been almost unchanged for centuries. The medium, they might be on bone, they might be on wood. Real popular now is gemstone runes. I have some myself carved on hematite with the solid gold etched symbolism. Palm nuts, of course, are palm nuts. They can be sacred, they can be consecrated, but you're not going to get walnuts and call them palm nuts. You're not going to get Brazil nuts and call them palm nuts. And the Voodoo that govern the usage of cowrie shell and palm nut, though it has a plethora of proverbs, of texts that go along with them, their root meaning, their root archetype, their root definitions don't change. So you're not going to get the same degree of manipulation. Now there are manipulations with other things associated with that you need to be clear on. But beyond that, what type of definition you're getting, what type of reading it is, how many babalawos are supposed to be in the room, or when that is happening. All those things are specific to the type of reading you get. That's what I meant by that. But beyond that, the system is pretty stationary, if you will. I Ching, one of my favorite systems, can't really be played around with, manipulated with too much. You're going to get a very clear, concise formula. I can't recall any negative events surrounding I Ching. I Ching is just used in a very different way. It has a very different energy associated with it. Just like we have a different energy associated with gold as we do with silver. Gold has a lot of greed attached to it. Tarot has a lot of liberal, untrained, uncalculated usages associated with it. Anybody can pick up a deck of tarot. So yes, absolutely, Tarot does have negatives associated with it. I dare say, and I say it with no prejudice, uh, in my opinion, one of the most volatile of all the systems. Despite the European world dominance, we still know very limited knowledge about the Nords and the Tabans and many of those cultures, old world cultures that produce uh, what we know as now as tarot. We know more about Egypt than we know about that part of the world as it relates to tarot and symbolism. Uh, so I would definitely, by all means, have a clear understanding about the deck, the origin of the deck, the intention and the meaning behind the deck, and then do your research about what's on the deck, the symbolism, the deities, the numbers, and as always, I end with all is a blessing. Ashe.